For the majority of my reviews, I've been using a Blue Yeti USB microphone. Now, when it comes time for me to review another microphone, I usually provide a small audio sample to give you a general idea of how that microphone's going to sound in the real world. Well, today I'm not going to be using the Yeti at all. I'm going to free myself up by using this little wireless microphone right here. I'm going to be using it to provide all of the audio for this entire review. And that should give you a general idea of my thoughts on the product, but let's take a closer look anyway. The Comica CVMWS50C is a compact wireless lapel microphone kit that retails for $170. And if by the end of this review you decide to pick one up for yourself, then please consider using our affiliate links to do so. The kit comes full featured with a carrying case, transmitter, receiver, tripod, lapel microphone, auxiliary cable, charging cable, and a mini dead kitten filter. It has this compact and industrial design that was definitely heavier than I was expecting. It features a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, a backlit LCD display, 6 channels to choose from, built-in belt clip on the transmitter, a built-in phone holder on the receiver, stepless audio gain adjustment, real-time mic monitoring, and an impressive 60-meter or roughly 200-foot range. And my experience with the product started off on a high note with a very simple setup process. It was so simple, in fact, that I can just use the pictures, a brief glance at them to get by, and it was a while before I noticed how poorly translated the English was in the instructions, because frankly I didn't really need to read them. Simply turn on both devices and set it to the same channel. A flashing green light means it's looking for a connection, and a solid light means it's connected. Connect the microphone to the transmitter, and connect the auxiliary cord from the receiver to the phone. And if your phone is like mine, you will need an adapter to fit into a phone that doesn't have a 3.5mm jack. And if you want to attach the phone to the receiver, you simply tighten it down and you're good to go. An important element when considering a wireless microphone setup is the battery life. And even though I looked all through the instructions, their Amazon selling page, and their website, I could not find any estimated specs on the estimated battery life whatsoever, which is interesting because the battery life was really impressive and you'd think this is something they would want to advertise. From my experience, it only took about 2 hours for a full charge and they lasted 6 hours of continuous use. However, only one charging cable was included, so you cannot charge the receiver and transmitter simultaneously, but just about any micro USB cable will work. And they do not shut off on their own, which is good and bad. You don't want them accidentally shutting off and then you finding out later that you didn't actually record any audio for your video. But on the downside, if you accidentally leave them on, they will be dead by the next morning. And when you go to charge them, a red light indicates that it's charging and a green light shows that it's ready to go. The cell phone holder was an interesting and incredibly convenient inclusion. This is marketed to be used with a cell phone. In this particular setup, I'm actually using it connected to my computer, so there is some flexibility there, but the intended use case is a cell phone, and this holder is really good. It works very well. It's big enough to even hold my iPhone 7 Plus with a decent-sized case on it. It barely fits in there, but it does fit. It's made entirely out of metal and is incredibly robust. And it also has these rubberized grips to keep the phone from slipping out. If you're not going to be using it with a phone, then this holder can actually be used conveniently with a battery bank to give it some extra juice. The accessories are all very premium feeling and, as far as I can tell, made out of quality materials. The tripod is stable and surprisingly useful. A button locks the ball joint in place, and the no-slip pads on the bottom prevent it from moving around. The dead kitten filter is a nice inclusion, but it's not exactly subtle, and attaching it to the mic is a bit of a headache and gets little hairs everywhere. The kit is modular, and you can add other devices like an electronic grip, a selfie stick attachment, and a handheld microphone. That aforementioned 3.5mm connection is TRRS, and I'm going to get a little bit technical here. It basically just means it's a combo headphone microphone jack, which works great for phones, and that's its intended use case, but it does not work with something like a DSLR microphone jack or connected to your computer. Now currently I am using it with my computer, but that's because I am using a cable that only has 3 conductive bands instead of 4, which means it's only functioning as a microphone, and I can plug it directly into the microphone jack. If you try to plug it directly into the microphone jack with the included cable, you will get no sound. It's an important consideration to make, but those cables that are simply for microphone or audio only are very inexpensive, and you probably have one laying around somewhere. Regardless of the microphone I'm using for a review, and this is even true for the Blue Yeti, there's always some post-processing involved to provide you guys with the best possible audio quality, and you've been hearing that throughout this entire video. So in a moment, I'm going to shut that off and expose you to just the raw audio that comes directly from this thing and what you can expect just straight out of the box, and that will start now. So as you can hear, without that post-processing, the audio quality is not as good. The volume on the microphone by default is pretty low, and when you first take it out of the box, the gain is all the way up and it sounds horrible, unless you're really far away from the microphone, but then you're gonna get all kinds of echo and artifacts and static. So you wanna make sure you turn that down, and it's gonna depend on how far away you are from the microphone, how loud you speak, and how much ambient noise is in your recording area. Now, the static is a little bit of an issue, but thankfully in post-processing, as I mentioned, you can filter out a lot of that static and make it sound pretty good. It doesn't sound as good as some higher end microphones out there, but again, this is really compact and wireless, and frankly, just really convenient. They claim the range is good for up to 60 meters or 200 feet. Now, I didn't get a chance to test it that far, but I did test it at about 40 feet or 12 meters, and that was even through several walls and a floor. And of course, if you have obstructions between the transmitter and the receiver, you shouldn't expect to get that maximum range. But even at that range, with the obstructions, the audio quality still sounded fantastic. It's actually hard to imagine a scenario where you and the camera are going to be 200 feet away, or at least you and the receiver will be 200 feet away from each other. But at least from my experience, the range is very impressive. So what would the recommended use case look like? Well, keep in mind this is wireless, so if you're going to be recording on the go, this is definitely something to consider. You don't want a wire between yourself and the camera, or yourself and the audio device that's going to be doing the recording. People can trip over it, they can get caught on things. So that's the obvious application there. But in a enclosed setting like this, you may be served by a wireless microphone, especially if you're just starting off on YouTube, because here's the thing, if you're starting off on YouTube, there's this tendency for people to want to upgrade their cameras, and it's really not that necessary. If you have like a mid-range to flagship smartphone made in like the last 3 or 4 years, you already have a phenomenal camera literally in your pocket. And financially, it's not going to make really much sense to upgrade from that smartphone camera to something like an expensive DSLR, based on just the amount of money you're going to be getting off of your YouTube or streaming career. It just doesn't make any sense. One thing that those phones are not great at, and this is just by design, they're just not built for this use case, is recording the audio for video, especially a kind of a longer distance like this. It's going to sound horrible. So it makes a lot more sense to get something like a $170 microphone that connects directly to your smartphones. You don't have to like sync the audio later. And you can, there's even like software, Adobe Rush and things like that, where you could do all your video editing right on your phone. That's going to streamline your video editing process greatly. And I think you could even take that, export it, and load it up to YouTube all from your phone. So that would be a great use case right there. But of course, you don't necessarily need it to be wireless. However, not having to adjust my microphone and get it in here and make it so it's just out of the shot, and run the cable to my computer, just being able to clip this on and start speaking is definitely really convenient. $170 is not a negligible amount of money. However, I would argue that the added flexibility that comes with a wireless setup can justify the price. You may find that you'll be better served by a desktop microphone, for example, and we've reviewed several of those on the channel. The most recent one was the Fifine K670, and we are currently doing a giveaway. If you want to enter that giveaway, it's down in the video description, where you will also find our affiliate links to all the products mentioned in this video. While you're down there, go ahead and hit that like button if you appreciated this video and found it insightful, and subscribe so you know when our newest content is ready to watch. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.